Welcome to episode 13 of Lost in Translation with Bobby Martin. I'm Sam Perkins. Today we are joined by a really remarkable guy. Greg Moulton is a outreach coordinator and treatment advocate over at Mayflower Recovery right here in Wilmington, right in the same town that we are recording in at our WCTV studios. So I don't want to tell too much of Greg's story. I first encountered Greg when he was a junior in high school, and I was just figuring out what I was going to do in my life. I was just entering my mid-20s, kind of on the early to mid-20s, had flamed out of playing baseball and was trying to pick up the pieces of my life, and I was working at a high school, and Greg was a student. He was a really talented basketball player. And over the years, kind of connected on social media years later and followed him. And he has a really remarkable story of recovery from addiction and now advocacy. He's a dad. He does really great work. Just opened up a sober living house, which is really remarkable. And we're just really happy to have Greg here today. Thanks for joining us, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome. That was a great intro. Keep going. Come on.
You just had a baby, right?
I did. His name's Tatum as well. I had to bring that up. He's 7 weeks old. I'm a diehard Boston Celtics fan. Yes, that's me.
I'm a Sixers fan, man.
Oh, man.
Should have named him Julius.
I'm going to move over here. All right, Dr. J has my respect. He has my respect.
Maybe Moses. I don't know. Just something like that.
UMass Amherst's finest, Dr. J right there.
Yeah.
So we can lay a little small claim to him as well.
My man.
So Greg, your story is so powerful that it's hard for me to try and lead into it. I met you. You were 16, 17, somewhere around there.
Yep.
Greg was a really hard-nosed, just like tough guard on the Arlington High School basketball team, starring there. He was definitely a kid that was he went on to play a bit in college, but he was a kid that was clearly good enough to play at some level of college ball. I went to a couple of those games. He was just tough, didn't shy away from getting into the paint as a guard.
Never.
I really didn't learn about your story until I think you were on the road to recovery is when I started, maybe that's at that point was when we kind of connected, or just I wasn't aware of it. But when you were 16, 17 in high school, just where were you at in life, and what would you say about your journey? I think a lot of people don't understand how someone falls into addiction.
Yeah, I remember we talked before, what's the standard story on how someone kind of falls into that or ends up, being an addict or an alcoholic. And, from a young age, I was kind of always on, to be honest, I was on some kind of substance, at all times. Whether, we don't have to get into detail maybe of what it is.
It's totally on you. If you want to go into details, you can. If you don't, you don't have to.
From 15 on, I was always using, smoking marijuana or drinking. And it just kind of like an average kid almost did, in high school, experimenting and having fun, but I just kind of regularly always did that. And and I guess during high school, like you said, I was a decent athlete, so I kind of just coasted through life, or I thought that I had everything figured out, but I didn't. I really knew nothing. The only thing I really know how to do was to use and to put a ball inside of a hoop. I didn't really know. I didn't have any work ethic. I didn't know what I wanted to do really after high school. I thought I had it all figured out at 17 years old. But really I didn't. And life kind of came quick and I couldn't handle it. And I guess I suffer from anxiety, and I didn't really realize that because I was always on some kind of substance. And like you said, I did briefly go to college, and that just kind of spiraled out of control as far as life on life's terms. I couldn't handle it.
So Arlington, by the time you got there, was becoming more affluent. How old are you now? I'm sorry.
Me, I'm 31.
Okay, so there's 7 years difference between us. So that's that's a decent amount. So when I was growing up, Arlington still had a little bit more of a blue collarness to it.
Yep.
By the time that you were kind of in high school, it was certainly kind of becoming that more affluent suburb. But that's not, you grew up actually in Somerville,
Correct.
right? So you had a really different background than most
Big
of the
time.
kids that you were going to school with. Do
Yeah.
you think that played a role in it at all? Like,
Yeah, I think it did. I'm glad you brought that up because I did. I moved like right at high school. So like I was 15 when I moved from Somerville to Arlington, and it was just me and my mom. And, like I said before, like in my story, it wasn't like, oh, like pity, like I didn't have much, or I did grow up poor, but I had everything that I needed. Right. My dad left when I was like 3 years old, and so like moving from like the inner city to Arlington, like I felt like I didn't really fit in because all these kids like had like nice things. They had nice houses, they had nice cars, they had nice clothes, and their families worked hard for those things. I'm not like, that's what they did, but I couldn't identify with that. That's not where I came from. It's not what I had. So I looked back at our little apartment and me like taking the bus and not having all these nice cool things or going away on all these awesome vacations, and like I thought that like my life wasn't as good, but really I had everything I needed.
So it was like, was the feeling that you weren't enough or you didn't have enough?
Correct. Or that, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Done all that and I would use and trying to get outside of myself, or I thought that I had to fit in or be cool and have people like me by going to the parties or doing really good at sports, and I thought that that's how I got all my friends, but really people liked me just because of who I was.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize that. And I like all my coaches were pretty much my teachers as well. So like I was really good at living that double life. I had good grades. I did good at sport.
I remember you were a good student.
Yeah, I was decent. I had really good grades. So like I love my mom. She's probably the strongest like lady I know. Like she raised 3 kids on her own. Like she's been there for me even today. You know what I mean? Helping with my kids. She taught me a lot. She really did. But she also like, I was just really good at living that double life. She didn't know exactly what was going on with me because from the outside, everything looked really good. I was going to school. I was going to practice. I was doing my homework. Like I just kind of coasted through life, honestly. Like, and then once high school ended, I didn't prepare for anything after that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't, like I would talk to college recruits, but Sam, all I saw was the door.
Yeah.
That was it. All I cared about was like that next fix. Right. Well, I didn't really think about my future. All I cared about was the party that I was going to after my game on Friday night.
The next dopamine hit.
Yeah, seriously. That's really
sure.
what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't push I did the bare minimum from 15 to 20. The bare minimum. I just did what I went to practice and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to a lot of things that you're saying are resonating with me. I started drinking and experimenting with stuff when I was probably around 14, 15. And I was just gifted student, and I was a really good athlete, and I was not prepared for college. And I think the summer before my freshman year of college, things really started to get out of control for me. Because it's like, I'm about to be an adult, I'm about to be independent, I'm about to be, and then my freshman year of college, I was not prepared for it at all. I was a mess. I was basically, flunking out, and it was like, I wasn't ready. And it sounds like the same. It's like you're just not prepared for it. And it scares me now with my kids. Like, how the heck do I, whether it's college or a trade or whatever. I mean, my son's is 5. My older one's 5. My youngest is a year, so we're ways away, but I know it goes by quick. And I'm like, how do I, because I had great parents, they weren't neglectful or anything, but like I was really good at keeping things hidden as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how in the world do I prepare my kids for like the real world, whatever that next step is?
Yeah.
Right.
I have no idea.
Maybe it's that you can't, because I mean, one thing I'm hearing in common is that, and myself included, I'm playing basketball all over the world. It's very secular. You get what you want. I can get that dopamine hit, whether it's women, drugs, whatever, right? And maybe it's, I'm hearing that your parents did all that they could.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing, when you're an addict, whatever. I mean, and this is me speaking from a basketball standpoint. Just whatever that fix is.
Mm-hmm.
You're a wonderful liar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No.
That's who we are. So how do you tell as a parent?
Yeah.
There's nothing you're going to be able to do except share with your kid.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, at least that's the way
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. I don't
Oh,
know.
100%. I was a great liar. That's all I did. I lied for 7 years.
Right.
You know, I just coasted. I went there. I took
Yeah.
the back door every time.
Right.
Just did whatever. Like I said, like I just did the bare minimum. I did whatever I had to do to not be in trouble and to do the right thing. But I didn't attempt or push myself in school. You know, in the gym. I just did what I had to do. It was all right. 5:30. Practice was over. Greg didn't stay.
Right.
I did not stay.
Wow.
You know, maybe I could have pushed myself and gone to a higher level if I actually tried more, but I didn't.
When you were in high school, do you feel like things were getting out of control, or do you feel like when you were in high school, you still had things kind of in control? Were they already spiraling, or were you?
No, I still had things kind of in control. I really did. It was right after. It was like that summer. You know, right after high school, I went into college and I just stopped doing because I didn't have a set as schedule. I guess honestly it happened really fast. It was like that summer. You know, 2010, 2011 is like really when my life, you know, kind of spiraled out of control. Where I dropped out of school. I got kicked off the team. I got arrested for the first time. I got my mother evicted from our apartment, and because I was selling drugs out of the back door. And she had no idea. And we were a tenant at will, and we had an eviction notice, and she had been paying her rent on time for 6 years that we lived there, from 2015 to 2020, 5 years. And she was completely confused on why she was being evicted. It was because her youngest son was selling drugs out of the back door.
So was that your like rock bottom moment?
Yeah.
Or you just
That was it.
Okay.
That was it.
Wow.
Yep.
What how does that go down between you and your mom at that point when she's like realizes she's getting evicted, and you know, I don't know if you come clean or she pieces it together or she.
I didn't. I put my hands up and I said I don't know, because I was so numb and I lied and I was so scared and I didn't know what to do, and she didn't even know, because I didn't actually get in trouble there. You know, to be honest, this is a true story. I didn't get arrested. I didn't get in trouble at the house. A neighbor complained to like the property managers or the owners of the apartment complex that we lived in, and they just gave us an eviction notice.
Wow.
There was no like getting in trouble, no getting caught, no nothing. That's why my mom was like, "What is going on?"
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't say what had happened. Eventually, I did, but we had already moved. We moved to Woburn. You know, we moved not too far from here, and like that didn't last long. And I was eventually kicked out of the house. Everything came out of the light, and I found myself homeless, 21 years old, on the streets of Boston for about 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You go
Please
ahead.
go ahead.
I was, so you guys moved to Woburn and then you get kicked out.
Yep.
Is that because your mom found out about the last
Everything.
place?
About everything. Yeah.
And how does that go down with you? Because you say that you guys have a really good relationship now, and
Yep.
that but at the time, how do you take that? I mean, I think humans, we can go a couple different ways. We can go like, man, I really fucked up and this is on me and
Yep.
shame. Or we can, I think when we are still, a lot of us will look for anywhere to put the blame except on ourselves when we mess up that bad. If we're not ready to start changing things. So like, how did you take it? Was it like, oh man, this is everyone's fault but mine? Or was it,
I mean, yeah, for a while I was still in denial. Like I was just kind of doing whatever. Honestly, I was so numb to it. I was off and running. I ran. My brothers had their own place. They were 10 and 12 years older than me. So that was kind of my, like, even fast forwarding, going backwards, rewinding. And when I was like 10 years old, they were 22 and 19. So my mom would be out with her boyfriend or at work or whatever, and like they would be, they would be drinking and having fun and having girls and having music, and like that was my environment at a young age. So like that's where I just kind of, I guess, where it was installed in me. And even going across the street in the projects, playing basketball with my friends at a young age, seeing all those kids across there, like, with the loud music and smoking weed and drinking and having the cars, and like that's what I was attracted to. I was like a product of my environment. Like that's what I thought that I had to do, or that's what the cool kids were doing. So eventually that's what I ended up doing. And I realized that, I guess, a few years ago that like, holy crap, that's kind of like where it started. And then to answer Like after I left, I kind of like bounced around from my brother's house. Like I lived back with them in Somerville. We lived in Union Square in like a little 1-bedroom studio with my brother and my 2 cousins who are also, God rest their souls. They both passed away from active addiction, and they're both twins. They were like my best friends. We were like the 3 amigos. You know, they passed away like 5 years. 6 years apart from each other within a mile.
Did they have any people in their family that had addiction problems?
Well, yeah, me.
You?
Yeah, they were. You know, we were, and one of my middle brother, my older brother, is also in recovery.
Okay.
Not my oldest brother, but my brother above me.
So that's a weird dynamic going on there, right? Because you can have a perfect family, right, and still become addicted.
Oh yeah.
And you can be caught up in an environment.
Mm-hmm.
Do something and it's still, and become addicted.
Yeah.
So it just happens. It's not like...
No, it does. It does.
Right. Wow.
It can. Yeah.
Wow.
I honestly believe I was born with the disease of addiction. Right. I do. I think it's in my blood.
Okay.
My just some people are, some people aren't.
To skip a generation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
How do you? So you said it was like 3 years of being kind of being homeless.
Oh yeah, in and out, running around the streets of Boston,
How do you
jail.
survive during those 3 years? And what do you?
Oh man, I stayed in homeless shelters. I stayed on the street. I was in jail. I was in detoxes, treatment centers. Just everything. Just using the system, doing whatever I could to get by. Honestly. I was stuck down Mass Ave, like you say.
Really? You're down Mass Ave, huh?
Oh, yeah, I was down there for a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, before it was even really, really bad, Mass Ave. I'm talking 9 years ago I was there.
Man, did you go through the 12-step program?
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah, I go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings right now.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Shout out to Lost Dreams Awakened group and Narcotics Anonymous. Monday nights we meet at 7 o'clock in Hudson, New Hampshire.
Shout out.
That's it. I sit in the same chair every single week, To bring that up, actually, it's kind of I love NA, because it's just like a really cool spot. Like even like I played basketball on like a high level, played and like hung out with a lot of people. I had a lot of friends. Me from high school.
Yep.
Like I didn't have a problem fitting in, but I really, really found my home at NA. I felt like I belonged. Like this is where I'm supposed to be, because it's all walks of life there, and like people that come there are struggling or going through the same thing that I'm going through, or are going through things that I've already gone through, or have been through things that I might go through in the future. And that's kind of, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
It's not just me that's fucked up. There are other people who have the same issue.
Yeah. There's a lot. I'm still sick today, almost 8 years clean and sober, you know what I mean?
So you were saying that for 3 years and you were kind of going through cycles, going in and out of different treatments and doing whatever. Was there like a real rock bottom moment that was like, okay, something changed that got you clean? Or can you put your finger on what it was that finally helped you get? I
can. So I lost, my cousin Kyle while I was still using. I wasn't in recovery yet. And, I lost my cousin Damien. I've lost an uncle. Like I've lost a lot of friends and family, while I was still out there. And I was so numb to it. Like was I sad? Was I cried? Like I was actually in jail during my cousin's services, so I couldn't even go because I wasn't immediate family. So I still live with that today. And then Craig, his twin brother, passed away during COVID. So only immediate family could go into the service because he was cremated.
Right.
So there was only 4 people that were allowed, and I unfortunately wasn't one of those 4. It was like my grandmother, my cousin, my aunt, and my uncle. Like they were like the only ones that could go in, and it killed me. So like those are like my 2, but I couldn't even be there to actually give a proper goodbye. To answer your question about like something like resonating, I don't know. So there's this thing called the Section 35. It's a civil suit in the state of Massachusetts where you can pretty much lock yourself up, but it's not a criminal. Like you're not in trouble. It's not a criminal suit. Like it doesn't go against your record. It's basically like a treatment center, like where I work, but it's involuntary. So you can't actually leave. You're in jail. You're in a drug treatment center, but with barbed wire. You're not leaving. You know what I mean? So you're doing the 30 days. And it's really just for people that need the help but don't want it. So your family members, say you're for example, like your brother was struggling, you could go to the courthouse right now and file the Section 35 paperwork and say, hey, my brother needs help. The judge will sign it, and they'll go pick him up, and they'll take him away and do the 30 days.
Okay.
So I Section 35 myself. I did it myself. So I called my mother, and the relationship that I had with my mom while I was out there kind of ripping and running was only through Facebook Messenger. And she would randomly send me question marks, and I'd say, yeah, Mom, I'm still alive. That was the relationship I had with my mom.
Wow.
And she didn't deserve that. But like that's what it was for a few years. It was cold, it was dark, and she would just say, I knew what she meant. When she sent me question marks, I knew what she meant. And she just was waiting for a response. Right. I could have just typed dots or something. She would know that I was alive. And I called her and I said, Mom, meet me at the courthouse in Medford at the Cambridge courthouse. She came, she signed the papers, she left. And I said, Judge, take me away.
Right.
And I went because I knew that I was safe for 30 days because I physically couldn't stop using on my own. I couldn't walk into like a place like where I work or anywhere like a hospital and just say, I'm Greg, I need help. Because I would leave. Yeah. I would do 5 days and I would get out or do whatever and do detox and I'd be out.
But that makes sense because there's no objectivity with an addict.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, it's just like,
it might be right then and now. If I was struggling right now and you were like, hey, Greg, you want to get help? And I'm like, yeah. But then it takes a little bit to get in. Yeah. I might change my mind and be like, yeah, I'm out.
Right.
Yo, it's every day. I do this. This is what I deal with every single day.
Wow.
I deal with like those crying mothers today. You know, I deal with the addicts that are struggling, the alcoholics that can't get out of the bar. I deal with that every single day, all day.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
All right. So right now we've got all type of dispensaries all over the place. Right?
Yeah.
How the hell do you deal with that every day?
That don't bother me.
It don't bother
no,
you? Okay.
God, no.
Right.
No. Maybe when I had like a few months clean and sober, sure. Yeah, but there's liquor stores and bars everywhere.
Right.
There's drug dealers on all the corners.
Well, and that's why
you know what I mean?
Because I'm always looking at, even when you think about recovery, I mean, now you can talk about taking ayahuasca or something like that. You know, where you're looking to find yourself. And I'm like, how do you find yourself offering another drug?
That's crazy that you even brought that up because that's a popular thing today. I scratch my head at it because that is people have different ways because you can use it in a medical way, I guess, for spiritual. And I respect anyone that does that. If they need to do that to heal, to find their inner self, like I'm all about it. But you're using a substance to get outside of yourself.
Right. To find yourself.
Correct. For a relapse in Narcotics Anonymous is using a substance to get outside of yourself.
Okay.
So to me, that's a relapse.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know, I have my. So in like 12 steps in AA, NA, you have something called a sponsor. You know, to help you kind of go through the steps and help you with your recovery. And I've been sober for over 7.5, and I had my first sponsor for 6 years, and he did that. And he's no longer my sponsor.
Right.
But he's still my friend.
So your friend, exactly.
I love him, you know, I talk to him, but I can't have him be my sponsor.
Yeah.
Because he's real big into the meditation and the healing, and I love that about him. But he goes on these retreats and takes it. And does and I'm like, I can't. Yeah. I can't do that. I can't do that, you know, because I just feel like for me, I know my limits or I might be okay that day if I did it, but maybe in a week I might have a drink or I might go back to my substance, you know what I mean? Or who knows? God, who knows? But there's a lot of people doing it, and it's scary for someone who maybe has is an addict.
Yeah.
So
there's such a qualitative difference like within the drugs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean
yeah, it's different from when I was using. It is. Cuz I was actually, you know, my drug of choice was heroin.
Okay, it was heroin.
And I used heroin.
So I grew up.
I didn't use fentanyl because that's the stuff now.
It's laced with fentanyl, right?
Yeah. Man, there's no more heroin anymore.
No more. Huh?
Nah, because it's man-made. It's a lot cheaper, and it's a lot. The mass production is fentanyl. It's quicker. So like wherever it's coming from, they're actually making it wherever. Heroin, you have to grow, you have to process, you have to ship it, you have to. Fentanyl, you can make right on the border, and bang, it's right there. Right there, people are making it in their basements, just like crystal meth is so popular too, because you can make it. So that's why it's if you look at the business side of it, because that's where it's from the mass quantities, wherever it's coming from, that's a whole nother thing. It's cost effective to just do fentanyl instead of heroin.
Wow. So when you went in for that involuntary 30 days, and
we can go back to that. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, so I just understand that. So you reached out to your mom. So did she technically have you? She was the one who filled it out?
You have to, because you can't do it yourself.
You can't do it yourself, but it was because you asked her to.
Yeah, like if you were going to go and you needed to, whoever, your immediate family would have to just come sign it and then walk out.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. While I was in there,
I was going to ask
and I met there was this other guy in there. I don't even remember his name. That's how much I didn't even know him, because he was there probably a couple weeks before me. He was leaving I was probably with him for like a few days in there, and we would, catch rag, play dominoes, play cards or whatever. And he left. So he completed like his time there, and we had gotten wind back with not even 24 hours later that he was no longer with us. So he had completed the program, left, used, and passed away.
Left, used, and passed away. Wow.
Just like that, used once and died. Wow. And I was like, holy shit, that's going to be me. And I don't even know him. Like I said, I lost family, like I've lost friends, and it didn't stop me. But for some reason, this like scared me. It shook me for some reason. I don't even know. And I was like, holy shit, I'm going to leave here, I'm going to use it, I'm going to die. So I got with my case manager. I talked to my mom. I talked to a sober house owner in Chelsea, Chelsea's House Sober Living. They get a shout out. And Hot Tub. I have to say Hot Tub. They helped. He held the bed for me, and my mom helped with like a few weeks rent. I got like a partial scholarship, and like I went to this sober house, and with a trash bag full of clothes and a little bag of food, and my mom said, "Good luck. Like this is it. Like here you go." And I've been to halfway houses before and sober houses, and like it didn't work. And when I got to this house, thank God, there was a couple guys in this house that had like a year sober. They had like a year and a half, 2 years, like short, like, still early in their recovery, but they were working somewhat of a program that I wasn't familiar with. Because when I was in programs early on with like a week clean, 2 weeks, 30 days, I was around my environment of guys that weren't doing the right thing. They weren't bad people, but they weren't taking meetings seriously. They weren't taking programs seriously. They weren't working yet. They weren't doing the right things yet. And like I would take me out every single time. But while I was here at this house, there were guys going to meetings. There were guys having sponsors. There were guys going to work. There were guys like, passing urines. There were guys seeing their kids. There were guys not dealing with probation officers. And I was like, holy crap, like these guys are living like somewhat of a life, like getting their life back together of like honesty and recovery. And I was like, whoa. So like I got in the car with them and I sat bitch, put my seatbelt on and said, where are we going? Yeah. And they were like, oh, we're going to Charlestown. We're going to Revere. We're going to Everett. Like we're going to these meetings. And I went to these meetings and I got my hand up and like started sharing like who I was and like I'm new around here, like I'm Greg, I'm an addict, I need help, I don't know what to do. And like eventually I got help from other addicts.
So when you're in a meeting, and can you tell when somebody's bullshitting?
I mean, yeah, you kind of can.
Okay. If
they're talking out of their ass or if they're, using and they're saying they're clean. Like, yeah, you can. You can, but we don't. We just kind of love them up.
Okay.
Because eventually it comes out in the light or we just know, that happens every day, all day. Yeah. It does. No, you're right. But people, like, it's actually harder to not lie, cheat, or steal than it is to use drugs and alcohol. Right. I say that all the time.
All right.
Because you could be clean and sober, but you're walking into Walgreens and stealing shampoo because, that's hard. For me, it was harder to not do that. I couldn't go in to just buy like a pack of cigarettes and not put a candy bar in my pocket or a pack of gum, even though I was clean. It was harder for me not to steal or lie or cheat, just, not necessarily like cheat on your significant other. I just mean cheat in general, like cheat in life, cheat in shortcuts, whatever it is,
Were those habits that you picked up while you were?
Yeah, when I was
in
young.
addiction? And
Yeah,
those
I even had.
habits were,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I even had that when I was young.
Yeah.
To be honest, I did. You know, even being a good, I would still just go in the. Me and my friends, we would run in the store and take the candy and run out. You know, we would just do it. And like I realized that after, and like through the doing the 12 steps, I realized that it was harder to not. I stopped like lying, cheating, and stealing. I changed my behaviors. I changed my attitude. Like I changed my perception on life. I changed, and like I learned a lot of things about myself and my limits. Like anyone could do the 12 steps. Like you guys could do it and just take out, like you don't have those problems, so you just take out the word drugs or alcohol and you put in whatever.
Yeah.
Life. You can just put life there, and you can actually become a better person by doing the 12 steps, and like learn different things and change your attitude and your perception on anything.
So when you do the 30-day involuntary, you go to the sober house.
Yep.
Have you been clean ever since that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
I mean,
November 27, 2014 is my clean date. I haven't found it necessary to use a mind-altering substance since that day. I do vape. You know, I did like I have my caffeine and nicotine. That's all I got.
Okay. So when I'm asking this, so how hard is it? Because I'm thinking about prescriptions.
Yep.
Okay. So do people like come up with injuries? Do they break arms? Do they do things like that just to be able to get a prescription?
It's definitely happened.
It's happened. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't put. I've probably thought about it back in
Okay.
the day, you know, but I definitely don't put it past people to break their finger,
Right.
you know, or whatever,
Yeah.
to just get a
pain
prescription.
pills.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a tooth pulled, and I had to tell the doctor that I no painkillers.
No, nothing. Right.
He asked. I had a follow up, and he asked me again, and I had to be like, I straight up like almost stood up and said, "I'm an addict in recovery. Do not give me any prescriptions."
Did you tell him that the first time?
Yeah.
And he offered a second
Yeah.
time? See, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why? Why
I
would
said
you do
just
that?
ibuprofen. I was like, I just need ibuprofen. That's all I took.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it. He's busy though, and I came back again, like, because I had I had to have the operation, and he was just, I don't think he was a bad guy, but I don't think they realize it, man. That should be documented right away.
Yeah.
That like, oh, this person said no, like the first time, you know, or he's in recovery. Like I had to tell him. Normally, I don't just tell everyone that. Like I'm comfortable telling anyone that, but not everyone is. Like, oh yeah, I'm in recovery. I'll we're doing a podcast and I'm talking about it. You know what I mean? I'll stand at the mountaintop and say I am in recovery. I'm an addict, but I'm I'm proud of who I am and I love myself. But like I had to tell this guy, like, dude, I'm in recovery. Like I already told you, I can't have any painkillers.
So you said your drug of choice was heroin.
Yeah.
Which I've never. That I was in my time was much more into the stuff that got me up.
Yep.
Which is why I think I drink like 6 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
That's my way of dealing. But that I have heard is like the hardest to kick. That like once you're kind of that heroin is just like as hard as it gets to kick, and you've been closing in on 8 years.
Yeah.
From getting out and not relapsing, like how hard has it been? Like what was you get out, okay, I went through it, you go to the sober, and then it's like, okay, now the rest of my life, like how hard has that rest of your life been of not relapsing?
So it's people get overwhelmed or struggle when they talk about the rest of their lives. That's why they always have the saying like one day at a time. But it's hard to go by that. Oh, like today I can't worry about tomorrow. Like I don't know I try to. What I struggle with is thinking of my kids as my sons. Like, where are they going to be in 20 years? Are they going to have everything they need? Are we going to? But that's where like my head goes. But I don't even. I know this is crazy, but my first year of sobriety was easier than my last, say, year or two.
Wow.
If that makes any sense. Just because I didn't have as many responsibilities. Not because I'm in my head thinking that I want to use. I don't have... The urge to use is completely lifted. But life has been harder the last couple of years because I have more responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Because in my first year, all I had to do was see my probation officer, follow the rules of the sober house, pay my rent on a Friday, and go to meetings. Those are my only responsibilities, and I had, like, that was it.
Wow.
That was it, dude. Like, I was 24 years old, like, just turned 25. Like, didn't have any kids. Now I have 2 kids. I'm married. I have a mortgage. I have a career. Like I have a lot of, I have a lot of things on my plate. Now I opened up a sober house, so now I have I have a lot going on. So and then COVID, like we talked, like COVID happened. Like I got respect for anyone that has like a year or 2 or is in really early recovery from 2020 to 2021 because meetings stopped. In-person meetings stopped. The church is closed. The recovery centers not like treat like obviously detoxes didn't close, but like drop-in centers closed.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Did the death rate go up?
That's a good question. I don't know if the death rate went up, but the percentage of people going to treatment went up.
Went up, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's gone up since COVID.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because you have
I'm
people.
sure a lot more people were using during COVID.
Yeah. But it's people. They didn't have that interaction with people that
Right,
say
but
someone was
needed.
struggling in 2020, like of April or May when they first entered recovery. They couldn't just go to a meeting and try and meet people and try and get
Right,
help.
right.
They had to do it over Zoom.
That social interaction.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah,
part of it.
Yeah,
Connection is the biggest part of it. They had to do it over Zoom.
It's so much harder to connect with people over Zoom,
Yeah.
and also you're reliant on, having a computer, having internet, having everything to be able to, and a lot of people don't have that, or they don't have
No.
even if they have some of those, they don't have a private place to
Yeah.
go and disclose stuff about themselves and
You're right.
and share and all that. That's So what were the next steps after? So you did that first year. You said was easier than now. Because you're doing amazing. You have a home, you've got a family, you have a wife, kids. You're back, reconnected with your mom.
Yep.
But what happened between year 1 to get to here?
Okay. I don't know. A lot of people rush to get things back. That's what we struggle with, even in society and life. Like not even just in people that are in recovery, or if they slowly get out of treatment and we want to rush. We want things right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even just in general, like after work, I just want to be home right away. We rush to get things back, and then once we have those things back, we're like, what next?
Mm-hmm.
That's what people do in early recovery. It's like, oh yeah, I got some time now. I finished the 12 steps, which usually they're lying. That's one of the biggest things about like people that work the 12 steps. Like it took me a long time to get through the 12 steps in narcotics because there's a lot of writing that you have to do. Mm-hmm. So if you hear someone in a meeting that has like 9 months clean and they like, yeah, I just finished 12 steps, that means they literally did nothing for those 9 months except for write. Because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
There's 69 questions in the first, just in step 1.
So is this like self-authoring?
Yeah.
So okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, so I guess, to answer like why I brought that up is because I didn't rush to get things back or to go do this or to find the next thing, because it's almost like the dopamine. Like you want that next thing. It's like, oh, I need like money in my pocket. I need the car. I need the girl. I need the career. Like, I didn't focus on that. I focused on my recovery. I focused on the steps. I focused on just like the little things. Eventually I moved out of that sober house. Well, then I was a house manager and like supervising a couple of the houses of the first house that I went to. And then I got an apartment with a friend of mine. And then I started working in treatment as like a level entry, like a behavioral health technician. So that's when I was like a year and a half like clean, and I started working in treatment. And then my wife today started working at the same place, and she got promoted, I got promoted, then we moved in together, then we had a baby together, then we started working together, and it became too much. So I actually left the field and I started like just working back in construction.
Yeah.
I was like, baby, you're doing great. I can go get a job banging a hammer for X, Y, and Z money.
Right,
You know what I mean? You do you. I'll do this, because my relationship with her was more important than my job. So like that's what I did. And I honestly was missing something in me. I feel like something was like a part of me was missing. And like I realized that like the purpose of life is to help others. That's what I'm here for. My purpose in life is to help other people, whatever that is. But the true definition of life to me is helping others, helping people, whatever it is. Like if you're a chef, you're helping people because you're feeding people. You know, if you're a construction worker, you're helping people because you're building houses for other people.
Right.
You know, if you work in treatment, you're helping other people in treatment. You know, if you're whatever, you know, you can go on and on. If you're a police officer, you're helping save the community. You're helping people. So, like, that's anything that you do. I don't care what it is. Fine. You could even a week from now think, oh, what about this job? No, you're helping someone do that job. So, you know, if you work with animals, you're helping the environment. You're helping the ocean. You're helping people. You're helping animals. You're helping people.
Yeah. So now you're give me the title again.
I'm an outreach coordinator.
Right. So okay, right. So now, outreach coordinator. Right. So what you're sharing, because you've already been through it, is more of wisdom than anything.
Correct.
Because of what you've gone through.
Yeah.
You've become wiser at what's really going on in both you and whoever you're trying to help.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, like the I could talk to a guy, girl, kid, doesn't matter, son, father, and they could say, "Yeah, I don't need help," and I'll be like, "Yeah, you do." If you're talking to me, you need help. You didn't just stumble. We're not just having a random conversation for no reason. You know, you struggle. You're struggling. You know, you might have things together, like I said, like when I was young, like I had things in control, but like, are you living?
Yep.
Like to me, like there's a difference between existing and in living. Are you living a life, or are you just existing in this life? Like, what are you doing? Are you happy? Do you have goals? Do you have hobbies? That was a big thing for me. Is basketball is my like first love, and for a while I was not playing basketball. You know, when I was using, and then when I got to the sober house, there was a couple of guys that were like playing, and like they didn't know me from the hole in the wall.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, these guys are like going to play basketball, like playing some pickup, like doing this and like doing that. And, like I started to get back into it, and like there were like all these recovery events, and like people were playing, and I'm like, oh, this is like really cool. And one of my good friends today is actually the partner in my sober house. His name's John Hansen. Shout out to him. He's like my best friend. He's actually Tatum's godfather, and like he came to that.
Julius.
Yeah,
Julius' godfather. Okay.
The doctor. Yeah. My wife was like, "What's gonna be his nickname?" I was like, "Deuce." You know, something's for life, man. Jaylen Brown, don't go anywhere. We love you. The people of Boston love you, my man. Seriously, and you know, like. He moved to that house too, and like he like wanted to like do some stuff and like hang out and like play ball, and like that's what we did. I would early on, all I did was go to meetings, go to work, and play basketball for like a long time, and like some football, like flag football, like other things to like have like find my hobbies. So like I found like my passion, what my purpose in life is. I have my schedule, I have my routine, I have my hobbies, which is basketball. I have my family. I have a simple life. I don't need all these crazy things. I don't need to go do all this. I go to work. I go home to my family. We go on vacation a couple times a year. I play basketball once a week on a Tuesday night. Like, that's my life today, you know?
I love that you said that. So you're saying more of there's a simplicity.
Yeah, my life, yes.
Life, instead of looking for everything. Like you said, you're looking for the next thing all the time.
Yes.
Right? No, there's a simplicity to this.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, and I'm not comparing my situation at all, but you talk about the simplicity of it. For me, like, life is more stressful now than probably most times in my life ever before, because of responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like you talked about,
you
family,
got kids.
Kids, wife,
yeah.
But like, it's simpler, and I like that, like I don't like hang out. I don't socially that much. I play with my kids. We go to the park. We go ride trains. We go do whatever. And but I like that. I do that. I tend to my little garden that I started this summer.
Hell yeah.
And like,
hobby.
Yeah, exactly. That's a hobby, and that's really the simplicity for me. The young me would be like,
I need to do stuff.
Yeah, but me now, like, I don't feel like, I used to feel like I was missing out all the time.
Yeah.
What are they, like, young kids for a little while, they were calling that like FOMO at one point. I mean,
fear of missing out.
I can't keep up with slang, but like, I'm sure that's out of date now. They've replaced it with something else. But like, I used to have that when I was young.
Yeah.
But now, like, I don't care what anyone else is doing.
No.
Like, I want to hang out with my kids, and that's all I need. Like.
So what's your advice to the young? Because we're talking. What I want to do is I want to correlate this. But this is real life.
I like it.
With
I know
sports.
Go.
Right?
Yep.
So far, I've heard that you wanted to simplify things.
Yep.
And what I'm thinking about right now is what are our coaches always telling us? keep it simple,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're always looking to increase our games, right?
Yeah. One dribble move. Don't over dribble. Don't. Yeah. Yeah.
And we play our best when we're passing the ball. We're getting into a good shot. We're keeping the game simple.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So now I heard you mention another word. We're talking about responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
You've got more responsibilities. You've got a family, mortgage, blah, 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 all that stuff. But as a recovering addict, what is your responsibility, right, to those triggers that, that could potentially come up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead. Please, go ahead.
Recovery is number one.
Okay.
In my life. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's number one. You can't put things before it because all those other things will just crumble. Right. You have to have your recovery recovery is the base, like a foundation of your house. You don't put the windows on first. You know what I mean? They're just gonna fall.
Because if you fell back into addiction, everything else would fall apart.
Correct.
So,
that's what it is. So that's why you just put recovery first, and everything else just falls into place.
So now they're slipping. We look at the kids today, and I mean, your life has been one of, we call it lore, right?
Yeah.
So now we got kids who weren't able to, because of the pandemic, and sports being therapeutic, our kids are falling into themselves, right, and not having a way to express themselves.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
they're more distanced. They're more at home. They're more in front of screens. They're not out and about. I had to be out of the house. But I was out. I was always running around wherever with the kid. Like when I was young, and life has changed a lot, and it's people in general. I feel like that's why it's also. That's another spiral, like the medications of you hear of all these crazy things that are going on in the world here, and and people with depression and anxiety, which are real things. They're in even the shootings that are happening, all this stuff, they weren't happening as much before. Even say 25 years ago, or I'm not saying it's not kids that are doing it. You know what I mean? But it's. The world is changed, I feel like, more because of technology and medications.
Mm-hmm. So the medication would be the feel no pain.
Yeah,
right?
and just messing with people psychologically.
So, but now we're saying...
And social media is messing with the kids too.
Right. So now all we do, we medicate the kids either with television or social media. Or you medicate them
stabilizes them. Yeah.
I think one of the big problems, because I'm a big proponent of medication if it's, because everybody's different. And some people can deal with stuff, whether it's ADHD, depression, they can deal with it without. Some people really do need to be medicated.
Yes,
of course.
And my wife she works in the mental health field. She's a therapist, runs a private practice, and she's medicated, and it makes a world of difference. When she has been unmedicated at times, it is really... But one of the other problems I've seen, is that young kids that maybe do need to be medicated, then turning around and selling these prescriptions to other kids that
happens
and
too.
So that's a big problem, is that medication can make a world difference for the right kid who it's prescribed for, who needs it, but then these things are falling
taking
into
it properly prescribed
too.
They might mistreat it. They might, I'm not saying that's the reason, but that's kind of
I think that
answer where all these things are coming into place for kids.
We're getting more isolated as a society because everybody's just in front of their screen. Even I have my
I'm terrible.
I have a big problem with my phone, and I'm really trying. I feel like I might need to go to therapy or something.
Form of addiction,
to kick this habit.
It's already a thing.
But
there already is technology, social Facebook, intervention.
It's we're more isolated because we're all on our screens, and then we're forced to stay inside, and then there's all these other things that we can do. So it's there are all these things that are going on that I think are compounding all the stuff. It's not really related, but I want to ask it before I forget, because what you described about with your mom, that made me... My thoughts go to my own kids when you talk about the Facebook messages, just a question mark, really, I was internally getting very affected by that. Both my parents passed away. They've both been dead for a while. They're both in car accidents. But so I don't think as much about that as I do my own kids when they get older, and I have all this fear of these, You can do everything right as a parent. And great, so I'm not saying great parents make a huge difference. You know, so I'm not saying it's a crapshoot. Like, no. You great parents make all the difference. Bobby and I have talked about fatherhood. But you can still do everything right as a parent, and it's just that, random chance, whatever, and something still, happens. And I thought about that, and I'm wondering, how did you repair your relationship with your mom?
Man,
how does that happen?
It's a living amends. It's a living amends. I didn't obviously I apologized to her, or I just try to do whatever I can for her. Like today, it took a little bit. She cut me off of all resources. So when I was struggling, she went to like Al-Anon meetings or Nar-Anon meetings, like for that's something like, say if you had someone struggling and you're not an addict, but like that's somewhere you would go to learn or get educated how to deal with it. Right. Yeah. So that's where she went, and she learned from other mothers who had gone through it or are still going through it on what to do. And it was completely cut me off of everything. Like even if I wasn't in trouble, like just call the cops whenever I was around. And like that's what they did. That's what my brothers did. That's what my brother did. That's what everyone did, is whenever I was around, they knew where I was. They would call the cops just to get me out of there, or to get me, even God forbid if I had something on me, to get me actually in trouble, to go to jail, to save my life. Because if they knew if I was locked up that I was somewhat safe, I've you know what I mean, safer than being on the street, because God knows what I'm going to do. And I resented her for that. But today it saved my life. And I love her for that. Like, she did that. You know what I mean? I had no more bridges. I had burned every bridge. I had no more couches to go on. I had nothing. And that's when I asked for help. That's when I made that call to meet me at the courthouse, because I had nothing left. So like that's what I talk to mothers today about, is to try these options, to not the right way to do, but eventually it's like, no, you gotta like put your foot down. You need to like cut off this and that, and like stop enabling and force them to get help, and then eventually, hopefully it sticks for that person.
So
today my family calls me when there is a problem. That's what my life. That's what I love about my life. Is my family, and them being able to call me when there's someone needs to be fixed. Call Greg. This person, my grandma Gigi needs this. Like they call Greg. You know what I mean? Like my mom needs help with this. Like I'm my mom's a proxy now.
That's an amazing amount of respect for you.
You know what I mean? Like I have to say, I have two old. Like I'm the baby, and like I have say on what happens to my mother. She trusts me to make the right decision for, God forbid, anything ever happened. Before 8 years ago, she was calling the cops on me.
Right.
Like I have a key to her house. Like that's the best gift of sobriety that I've gotten. Obviously aside from like my kids and my my family and my wife and stuff, but like that's really it. I don't need all the shiny stuff. I don't. It's just life. It's the simplicity of my life and the trust and the love that I have today, because I didn't have that for a while.
So with your kids, do you often think about, okay, since I've had the issue with addiction that I could...
My wife's in recovery too.
So okay, all right.
It's scary.
Scary,
that's what I think about.
So this is, like you said, one day at a time. You live this day by day.
Every day, yeah. I can't think about my boys, like, what they're going to be like. They're going to be crazy, I don't know. Hopefully, I just try to do the right thing and just love them to the fullest, and like just care for them and help them and teach them and be a father and a dad to them, and hopefully that day doesn't happen.
How much did not having your own dad in the picture influence you as a father?
Big time, and even kind of like I'm a competitor at heart, so like I want to. I didn't have I wasn't taught a lot of things on how to be a father. I wasn't, and I still I almost make it a I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. To be there for my kids, to make sure my boys know that I'm there, or to come to me for anything. Obviously, they're like babies still, but like eventually, like that's what I will do. That's like I didn't have my dad to just like shoot hoops with me when I was really young. Like I didn't have anyone to teach me. I was like self-taught. You know, I have my older brother who, you know, he has like disabilities, like learning disabilities and stuff, like my oldest brother, but he was the one who was, he's like my biggest cheerleader. Like he was at every single game. He'd be at every single practice if even if he wasn't allowed to be, you know, like he was there. Like he was my biggest fan. He even asked me today, he's like, hey, what are you playing today? Like, you know, I'm 31 years old, you know what I mean? I don't play anymore. And, you know, but I played, like I traveled around the country. Like I played in like nationals and like AU, and he was right there in the car. He did not miss a thing.
Wow.
You know, he went to Virginia Beach when we went down. We played in Memphis, played in Florida. I played all over the place, you know, and played in the the Jam Fest out in Atlantic City and New Jersey.
Bobby was just coaching there.
Yeah, like I played, I played at a high level for a few
Greg
years.
Could play, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it. Like
I
Greg,
used to.
Greg could
like
really
I had
play.
that. I wasn't a shooter though. Okay. You know, I was like a Mark. I was a Marcus Smart. Like that's my game. You know, even Westbrook. You know what I mean? I will get you a triple double, and I will guard the best player on the other team.
Okay,
that was my game. You know, like you said, like I would cover the 1, 2, 3, 4, like anybody, and shut them down. Like that was my game, and I'd get you 12 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists every single game. Like that was what I did. That's what I told Coach Titus at UMass Boston. I was like, I'm gonna be you on the court.
Shout out to Charlie Titus.
Yeah, my man, my man. That's you know, like that's what it was. Like I was like, I'm gonna be your eyes and ears on the court.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to war for you. Like that's what I was good at. I was a quarterback. I played quarterback in high school too. Like so, like that's what I did. You know, I was like the floor general. That's what I was really good at. I'm still like that's what I do today. I'm not up there doing this or shooting Steph Curry threes, but I'm in there doing all like the dirty work for my other friends who do all the scoring.
And you named your child what?
Tatum.
I'm
Brian.
just asking the question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you're good. You're right. But yeah.
Hey, the goal as parents is for our kids to surpass us.
Yeah,
so,
true.
That's it. Yeah. Zachary, Kyle. That's my firstborn. He's the one I showed you the video of. He's gonna be better than me. Yeah. That's a fact. You know, he loves the game. He loves the game. He watched. You know, it was late, but he would watch the games with me. Mm-hmm. You know, he was there, right next to me. Like he would even ask, "What game's on today? Who we watching?" I had the summer league on the other day, and he's just watching it. He's 4 years old. It's cool.
So your work at Mayflower now, what is it like for you to be dealing with people maybe at the beginning stages of trying to get better? You know, they're coming in. How hard is it too when you know there are plenty of people that come in that are going to relapse, that aren't ever going to make it out the way that you did? Like how hard is that internally to be?
That is a reality. You know, it is tough to think of like that. But I'm in the trenches every day. Yeah. Like I'm on the phone. I'm talking with people to pretty much have them come into detox. Like the first step, you know, is coming into treatment and working with not only the addict or the alcoholic, but also their families and educating them on what's necessary and what's really important. I run around to hospitals every single day. I run around to like clinics, methadone clinics, Suboxone clinics, outpatient therapist offices, psychiatrists. That's where I go every single day. I'm running around the whole New England area pretty much, from New Hampshire to Mass to Rhode Island to Maine. You know, I run around all over the place, and like that's literally what I do. Is I'm an advocate for Mayflower recovery, so I work with just whatever. You know, that's just essentially I do marketing, but it's just really just outreach in the community for Mayflower. Mm-hmm. That's my job, and I love it. It's my passion. So what, you know, I get to help people and make a living out of it. So it's a win-win.
Are most of the people, is this pharmaceutical drug problems or
everything?
Everything, right?
No, everything.
Okay.
Everything, alcohol, pills,
right.
Any you know, anything you name it, we can help them.
Are there differences? Do you find differences in recovery times, whether depending on the severity of the drug?
As far as how long they need to stay in treatment?
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, alcohol's the worst.
Alcohol's the worst.
Yeah, it's alcohol's the deadliest, I think. You know, it opiates or like fentanyl kills you faster. Mm-hmm. Alcohol kills you slower. That's really all it is. That's the only difference. And alcohol is socially acceptable, but it's actually like the worst one.
It's the worst, right?
It is.
Yeah, I mean I've always kind of thought
it's the worst on your body.
Yeah.
It's It has the worst. You can actually die from withdrawals. You can
I know that.
you can
Alcohol. Wow.
you can die from alcohol and benzo, like diazepam, like prescription pills. You can die from those withdrawals because you can go have a seizure and go and you can die.
You know,
For opiates and for opiates you kind of just have like, you're like really sick and you're like
Okay.
sweating and
Okay.
you're shaking, like you're just like really cold, like that's what a withdrawal is from an opiates. And for like crack and cocaine and meth, it's more of serious dehydration and you need like a lot of sleep. So that's what it is. So alcohol and benzos are the worst. And you wouldn't know, you wouldn't think that. You would just assume it's opiates or that, but it's alcohol, man.
You know, growing up in Atlantic City, in the younger years in Atlantic City, it was heroin that was destroying the city. And then the crack epidemic hit. And now all of a sudden, crack, I think.
Mid to late 80s, yeah.
Yeah, mid to late 80s. And now, you're watching and functional crack addicts. I mean, like, so you don't even know, right? You're like, really?
It's crazy.
There were guys that were so much better than me playing basketball. So they were so much better players, but they got caught up on them drugs.
Yeah.
And it was impossible for them to get over.
Yeah.
It was nuts, man. I'm going back to my childhood thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever sit back and think about the depths of darkness that you were living in, and where you are now, where you've got a house, 2 kids, wife, good relationship with your mom, and think like any little you might have turned left instead of right during that period of addiction and darkness, and you might not be here or might not be living the life.
Yeah, even early in recovery, I was tested. I went to the sober house that I went to was in Chelsea.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know
I know
Chelsea, Mass. Bellingham Square, man.
Yeah.
Like it's not a nice area at all. It's one of the highest actually, like gang and violence and drug addiction, like in the state.
And this is what square?
Chelsea, Mass, Bellingham Square.
Bellingham Square. Okay.
Yeah, you can get clean anywhere. It's just your willingness, because I got clean in Bellingham Square, Chelsea, Massachusetts. You can literally get clean anywhere. It does not matter. It's really up to the person. It doesn't matter if you go to a 5-star place in Malibu or if you go to, one of the state-run places here in Boston. It does not matter. It's whether or not you really, truly want it. And you might not right away, because I didn't. I can't even say I didn't have like guns blazing for recovery when I first came around. It was kind of just other people helped me along the way, and then eventually I wanted it instead of needed it. Because I needed recovery because I was going to die, but eventually over time I wanted it. And I loved it, and then like this is what I do, and that I participate in Narcotics Anonymous meetings, because you can go to meetings, but then there's participating in meetings. Like I said about like existing in life and living life. There's a difference between you guys. You could walk into a meeting and just sit in the chair and go like this and just on your phone, or just sit there and not talk or not listen. Or there's a difference between participating in the meeting, being wherever, sitting up front, talking, sharing, listening, like helping, like getting help. Like there's a difference there. You know what I mean? So that's the things that I realized.
In ball, we call that player or pretender.
Yeah. Seriously, it's it. Like that's really what it is. And then I don't know. It's just a way of life for me now. It's just a part of my life. It's not my whole life. Recovery is not my whole life. NA is not my whole life, but it's a part of my life. It's in my routine. It's in my schedule, because it's given me a beautiful life that I have today.
Well, Greg, we really appreciate you coming in to share your story with us today.
This is awesome. When am I coming back?
Anytime.
Anytime. They're always welcome.
Yeah, man. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do.
My man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.